The Pittsburgh Steelers have officially confirmed that they have reached a verbal agreement with Mike McCarthy to become the franchise's next head coach, marking the beginning of a new and potentially transformative chapter in Pittsburgh. The reported 5-year deal signals a long-term commitment from the organization, reinforcing the belief that McCarthy is not being brought in as a short-term fix, but rather as the steward of the team's next era. Given the Steelers' historic reluctance to fire head coaches and their deep-rooted belief in stability and continuity, McCarthy is widely expected to remain the unquestioned leader of the locker room through the duration of the contract and possibly beyond, should an extension be agreed upon down the line. For a franchise that has employed only 3 head coaches since 1969, this hire carries immense weight. The Steelers do not make coaching changes lightly, and when they do, it is usually with the intent of reshaping the organization for the long haul. McCarthy's arrival therefore represents more than a simple change in leadership. It is a philosophical pivot rooted in the realities of the modern NFL. While Pittsburgh has long prided itself on defense, toughness, and physical football, the league has evolved into one that increasingly revolves around elite quarterback play, offensive efficiency, and schematic flexibility. The Steelers' decision to entrust McCarthy with this transition reflects an acknowledgement that the team must adapt if it hopes to reclaim its status as a true AFC contender. Perhaps the most compelling upside of hiring Mike McCarthy is his long-standing reputation for developing quarterbacks, a trait that has become critically important for a Steelers franchise that has struggled mightily in that area in recent years. Since the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era, Pittsburgh has cycled through multiple options at the game's most important position, searching unsuccessfully for a long-term answer. Draft picks have failed to develop as hoped, veteran stopgaps have offered only limited ceilings, and defensive inconsistency has repeatedly undermined otherwise competitive rosters. In today's NFL, it is virtually impossible to sustain success without a legitimate signal caller, and the Steelers are acutely aware that until that issue is resolved, their championship aspirations will remain distant. McCarthy's resume suggests he is uniquely suited to address that problem. During his time with the Green Bay Packers, he played a central role in the development of Aaron Rodgers into one of the most accomplished quarterbacks in league history. His offensive systems have traditionally emphasized timing, decision-making, and adaptability, allowing quarterbacks to grow within a structured yet flexible framework. While his later years in Green Bay and his tenure with the Dallas Cowboys came with their share of criticism, McCarthy has consistently demonstrated an ability to identify quarterback traits, nurture talent, and build offenses around the strengths of his personnel. For a Steelers team desperate to find stability under center, that track record is hard to ignore. That desperation has only intensified as the outlook for the 2026 quarterback market appears increasingly bleak. Both the upcoming free agent class and the projected draft pool are widely viewed as lacking high-end franchise quarterback prospects. As a result, Pittsburgh finds itself in a precarious position, either find a solution internally or risk being forced into a costly and potentially ineffective move. Against that backdrop, the possibility of developing a young quarterback already in the building has become increasingly appealing to both the organization and its fan base. That is where Will Howard enters the conversation. While appearing on Around the NFL, respected insider Tom Pelissero revealed that both the Steelers and Mike McCarthy are really high on the former Ohio State quarterback. Perhaps most intriguingly, Howard represents a low-risk, high-upside option, as the team would not need to expend additional draft capital or significant salary cap space to evaluate him. According to Pelissero, McCarthy himself is very intrigued by Howard's potential, a statement that has sparked considerable excitement and debate among Steelers fans. Will Howard, selected by Pittsburgh in the 6th round of the 2025 NFL Draft, was widely regarded as a steal at the time. Many draft analysts projected him as a mid-round pick, citing his size, arm strength, and collegiate pedigree. His final season at Ohio State culminated in a national championship, a credential that naturally carries weight within NFL circles. Quarterbacks who have performed on college football's biggest stages often attract interest based on their experience handling pressure, and Howard's championship run has been a key factor fueling optimism about his long-term ceiling. Unfortunately, Howard's rookie season did little to clarify what the Steelers truly have in him. A training camp injury derailed his development almost immediately, forcing him to miss the entire preseason and land on injured reserve before he could gain any meaningful reps. By the time he was activated, the season had largely passed him by. He spent most weeks as the emergency third quarterback, rarely dressing for games and never taking a meaningful snap. His role was primarily limited to the scout team, where he worked behind the scenes rather than on the field. For a developmental quarterback, it was about as quiet and uninformative a rookie year as one could imagine. Yet even within that lost season, there were subtle signs that the Steelers believe Howard's future remains promising. One of the most valuable aspects of his rookie campaign was the opportunity to learn from Aaron Rodgers, who served as the team's veteran quarterback. Howard has spoken openly and enthusiastically about the mentorship he received from the future Hall of Famer, describing Rodgers as a constant presence and a de facto quarterback coach throughout the 2025 season. Even while sidelined on IR, Howard reportedly spent significant time in meetings, film sessions, and one-on-one discussions, absorbing lessons about footwork, pre-snap reads, defensive recognition, and professional preparation. That kind of tutelage is difficult to quantify, but it can be invaluable for a young quarterback still adjusting to the speed and complexity of the NFL. Rodgers' influence could help accelerate Howard's development in ways that traditional coaching alone might not. If Howard is able to apply those lessons on the field and continue building on them under McCarthy's guidance, the Steelers may have quietly positioned themselves with an intriguing developmental prospect at minimal cost. The idea of giving Howard a legitimate opportunity has gained traction among the fan base, particularly given the broader context of the team's recent struggles. Steelers fans have grown increasingly frustrated with seasons that hover around mediocrity, good enough to avoid a complete collapse, yet not strong enough to seriously threaten for a Super Bowl. Wildcard exits and late-season stagnation have become all too familiar, fueling a sense of restlessness and impatience. For many supporters, another respectable season without meaningful progress would be more aggravating than a full-scale reset. As a result, some fans have begun advocating for a more aggressive approach, give Howard a real chance, accept the risk that comes with developing a young quarterback, and embrace the possibility of a down year if things do not work out. In that scenario, a poor season could at least position the Steelers to draft a top quarterback prospect in 2027, rather than continuing to tread water. While that mindset runs counter to the franchise's historical emphasis on competitiveness and stability, it reflects the growing realization that half measures at quarterback are no longer sufficient in a conference loaded with elite talent. Pelissero's report only adds fuel to that argument. If both the organization and McCarthy truly believe in Howard's upside, there is a strong likelihood that he will be given a legitimate opportunity to compete for the starting job during training camp. At the very least, he is expected to enter camp on relatively equal footing with Mason Rudolph, setting up a quarterback competition that could define the early stages of McCarthy's tenure. For Howard, it would represent the first real chance to show whether his skills can translate to the professional level. For McCarthy, it would be an early test of his ability to identify and develop quarterback talent in Pittsburgh. The stakes surrounding this decision are enormous. Steelers fans are not simply looking for incremental improvement, they are craving direction. Another season of middling results could spark widespread outrage, regardless of whether the team technically meets or exceeds expectations. Conversely, a bold move that embraces uncertainty, whether it succeeds or fails, may be more palatable if it signals a clear plan for the future. The hypothetical pairing of McCarthy and Howard embodies that crossroads perfectly. If it works, the Steelers could emerge with a young, cost-controlled quarterback and a head coach capable of maximizing his potential. If it fails, the organization may finally find itself in position to pursue a true franchise quarterback at the top of the draft. Either outcome would represent a departure from the stagnant middle ground that has defined recent seasons. That is why the upcoming year feels so pivotal for Pittsburgh. With a new head coach, a long-term contract, and a potential developmental quarterback waiting in the wings, the Steelers are entering a period of genuine uncertainty and, perhaps, genuine opportunity. Whether this gamble pays off or backfires spectacularly remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: the direction of the franchise is shifting, and the consequences of that shift will reverberate for years to come. Time will ultimately tell how it all unfolds, but for now, the Steelers' future has never felt more intriguing or more volatile. Do you think Mike McCarthy can bring the Steelers' shine back? Do you think Will Howard has the potential many believe he does? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.